Hey everyone, welcome to another Biology IB video. Today we'll be continuing our lessons on cells. So we're going to start off by talking about atypical examples of cells. Now these are cells that do not follow the typical observed patterns. The first example is striated muscle fibers. Striated muscle fibers are long and cylindrical in shape. Each fiber is a single cell. Now these cells are much longer than the typical animal cell and can grow up to 30 millimeters in length. Another atypical characteristic that they have is the fact that they are multinucleated. This means that they have more than one nucleus enclosed in a single cell membrane. In fact, there can be up to hundreds of nuclei in a single striated muscle fiber, and the nuclei are typically located in the periphery of the cell. The second example we'll be talking about is giant algae. Algae is a group of autotrophic aquatic plants that can undergo photosynthesis. Algae can be either unicellular or multicellular. It serves a very important ecological role as it forms the basis of the food chain in aquatic environments. Most unicellular algae are microscopic. However, giant algae in the genus Acetabularia grow to be quite large. These giant algae can grow up to 100 millimeters, which we would expect to be multicellular, even though it is comprised of only a single cell. The third example we'll be going over is aseptate fungi. Fungi typically have hair-like projections or extensions called hyphae. These hyphae are surrounded by or enclosed in a cell membrane and a cell wall. In septate hyphae, the hyphae is divided into cell-like compartments by septa, or internal walls. In aseptate hyphae, there is no septa to divide up the hyphae, meaning each hyphae is like a continuous structure or tube with multiple nuclei, kind of like the striated muscle fiber I talked about earlier. The final example I'll be going over is red blood cells. Unlike typical animal cells, mature red blood cells do not have a nucleus. This makes room for them to carry more hemoglobin so that more oxygen can be carried in the bloodstream, making it more efficient. Now initially, the bone marrow produces immature red blood cells with a nucleus, but before entering the bloodstream, they expel their nucleus. So here I am just comparing aseptate hyphae with septate hyphae. As you can see, in septate hyphae, there are multiple septa to divide the hyphae into compartments, while in aseptate hyphae, there is just a continuous tube full of multiple nuclei. Now I'll be going over something called the surface area to volume ratio. Now the surface area to volume ratio limits cell size. It is the ratio between the surface area and the volume of an object, frequently written as SA:V. Now, cells seek to have a large surface area to volume ratio because it is more efficient this way. However, as a cell increases in size, its surface area to volume ratio will decrease. This is because as a cell increases in size, its volume increases at a faster rate than its surface area. This explains why most cells are so small, mostly microscopic, in order to maximize the surface area to volume ratio. With a higher surface area to volume ratio, there is more plasma membrane relative to the volume of the cell compared to a lower surface area to volume ratio. So with the higher surface area to volume ratio, there is more exposure to extracellular fluid, meaning more cell membrane available for transport of nutrients and wastes in and out of the cell. Okay, now I'm going to be going over the relationship between surface area and volume in terms of the cell. So in terms of volume, the cytoplasm makes up the volume of a cell. In the cytoplasm, chemical reactions take place within it, making up the cell's metabolism. And the metabolic rate of the cell, or the rate of all the reactions that take place in the cytoplasm, is dependent on the volume of a cell. Now, in order to get the reactants and nutrients necessary for the cell's metabolism into the cell and waste products of metabolism out of the cell, the plasma membrane must efficiently transport materials in and out. This rate of transport is dependent on the surface area of the cell. So if the surface area to volume ratio of a cell is too small, then there is not enough membrane area to transport the required reactants and nutrients into the cell as fast as they are needed. Nor is there enough membrane to rid the cell of waste that has accumulated within the cell. In addition, if the surface area to volume ratio is too small, the cell may overheat, as the cell cannot lose heat over its surface as quickly as it is produced by metabolism. Finally, an abnormally large surface area to volume ratio can also prove problematic, as too much materials, fluids, and nutrients is lost. So here I'm just going to review with you volume and surface area. The volume of the cube is just equal to length times width times height, which is the side cubed. And the surface area is just 6 times the length times the width. So here there is an example of 3 cubes with side lengths 1, 2, and 3 respectively. I'm going to start by calculating the surface area of each cube, and then the volume, and then finally the surface area to volume ratio. As you can see, as the cell gets larger, or the side of the cube gets larger, the surface area to volume ratio decreases.